Oh, got it! Whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
Claiming extraterrestrial crafts were recovered and have been kept secret by the United States government.
Who made them? Where are the manufacturing facilities for these? Where do they come from? Who's piloting them? And what do they want? And
Are aliens among us?
Explanation for what this specific object is.
Today, UFOs and UFO conspiracy theories have become a giant part of popular culture. But in order to understand why they became such a big part of popular culture, we need to take you all the way back to 1947 and the first well-documented sighting of a UFO. On the 24th of June, 1947, Kenneth Arnold made UFO history. One thing to keep in mind when learning about the Kenneth Arnold UFO sighting and why it was so important and why it gained so much steam in the early days of UFO reporting is because Kenneth Arnold wasn't your everyday recreational pilot. He had over 9,000 hours of flying experience, and he had also founded the area's Search and Rescue Pilots Association. So, when Arnold learned that a Marine Corps transport plane had crashed nearby and that there was a significant reward of $5,000 for finding the crash site, he went for a ride. He departed Chehalis, Washington in the afternoon and took a slightly unorthodox route in hopes of increasing his chances of finding the crashed plane. Having flown for a long time, with no sign of the lost aircraft, Arnold decided to turn around for another pass. Shortly after doing so, he witnessed a bright flash of light.
He claimed they emanated from 9 shiny objects flying in an echelon formation about 5 miles long. Arnold described each object as circular, about 100 feet across, and with no discernible tail. The objects periodically flipped, banked, and weaved side to side, quote, like a tail of a Chinese kite, end quote. He calculated the objects were flying about 1,200 miles per hour, 2 times faster than any airplane known at the time.
Now, at first, it might seem crazy to believe one man when he says that he saw 9 mysterious aircrafts moving at 2 to 3 times the speed of anything humans had ever seen before. However, when newspapers started publishing stories about Kenneth Arnold's sighting and his comments on his sighting, his claim became increasingly more credible as other people started backing up his claims and saying that they had seen similar things. For example, a well-known nature watcher within the community said he had witnessed the exact same thing at the exact same time flying near Mount Rainier. Even more importantly was when a man in Arizona heard a weird noise and saw a very bright flash of lights outside of his house. Being an amateur astronomer himself and an amateur photographer, he decided to go outside with his camera and see what he could take a picture of. He managed to snap 2 photos of a UFO that looks much like the one Kenneth Arnold described in his initial report. Kenneth Arnold responded to the published photographs saying, "That is exactly what I saw on my journey over Mount Rainier."
This was coincidentally at the beginning of the Cold War. One of Arnold's first thoughts was that he was seeing U.S. jet planes. Yet his sighting was so troubling, he reported it to the media in an effort to find out what he saw. Much of the general public at the time made it to see if the Soviets had developed a saucer or flying wing aircraft using captured Nazi designs and scientists. But this drew a blank, and it was equally clear that it wasn't a U.S. secret weapon either. Debunkers soon turned to claiming such sightings as misperceptions or the product of Cold War hysteria, while believers soon started thinking the saucers were extraterrestrial craft on a mission to save us from starting an atomic war. Concerned that all these UFO sightings would block essential channels of communication and be a psychological weapon by foreign enemies, the policy of the U.S. government agencies soon turned to providing mundane explanations for sightings or covering them up to prevent the outbreak of UFO hysteria. Though these tactics only made it to seem the U.S. and other governments were covering up the subject because they knew more about it than they were willing to say. That same year, the Air Force started a program to investigate UFO sightings called Project Blue Book. Over the next 2 decades, over 12,000 strange sightings were reported to the project. When it was phased out in 1969, around 700 sightings were still categorized as unidentified, according to the National Archives.
The initial secrecy surrounding investigations of UFOs, due to concerns that they might be Soviet-made creations, inadvertently fostered conspiracy theories and caused distress among the public. In the early days of UFO sightings, the government was on high alert that these flying objects may be advanced Soviet surveillance or military technology. Fearing potential national security threats, authorities chose to handle the matter discreetly. For example, efforts such as Project Blue Book or similar organizations that were founded at the time to track these reports and investigate these sightings used a system of intense confidentiality and lack of information and transparency. Because the government was so non-transparent and didn't provide the public with all the information, it created a big sense of unease and mistrust among the greater public. In order to deal with this, conspiracy theories were often used to create explanations, and independent reporting agencies were founded. The largest of these independent UFO reporting organizations is the National UFO Reporting Center. This is an agency directed by a man named Peter B. Davenport, who we were fortunate enough to get in contact with. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing Something we were very eager to discuss with Director Davenport was his own personal encounter with a UFO when he was only 6 years old. He described the encounter as graphic and very unsettling. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. Because of this intense UFO encounter in his childhood, he became immediately interested in pursuing a career in UFO reporting and investigation. He was handed down leadership of the National UFO Reporting Center and was able to detail some of his most memorable and important cases that he recorded as the leader of this important organization.
Once they had gotten about a quarter of a mile away, they say they saw the alien craft zip skywards. They returned to look for Travis, but according to them, he was gone. Meanwhile, Travis claims he awoke in what he thought was a hospital. He looked up to the doctors working on him and realized they were short, bald, humanoid aliens. He says he fought with them for a time before they placed a plastic wrap over his face and things went dark again. Other times, when Travis tells this part of the story, he runs away from the aliens and gets into a control room where he claims that he was approached by a human wearing blue coveralls and a helmet. He explains that this strange person led him through the ship, showing off the hangars and other amenities, before bringing him back to an examination room where he's knocked unconscious by one of the earlier aliens.
UFO facts as well. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. Finally, to end the interview, Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. Director Davenport shared his views on what he thinks the government may be hiding from the American people when it comes to evidence of UFOs. Much of this is very much in conjunction with existing conspiracy theories as well. So to answer our essential question of how a UFO sighting in Washington by a recreational pilot contributed profoundly to a growth of a greater conspiracy culture in the United States, we have a few final remarks.
Since the Kenneth Arnold case and the popularization of the term flying saucer, conspiracy culture in America has undergone a transformative shift. UFOs, a phenomenon that originated in Washington state, often referred to as the UFO capital of the world, have become a focal point for individuals to speculate about unexplained events. With the rise of internet algorithms leading conspiracy enthusiasts further down the rabbit hole, the situation has escalated in recent years. Some of the most extreme conspiracy theories include the belief that Democrats are running an underground child trafficking ring through pizza restaurants, that aliens have infiltrated and controlled the U.S. government, and that the January 6th insurrection was orchestrated by Democrats and Antifa to falsely incriminate Trump supporters. Amidst this context, it's important to consider the reliability of information and critically assess the validity of these theories. While individuals are entitled to their beliefs, it's essential to approach conspiracy theories with a balanced and skeptical mindset, acknowledging the lack of substantial evidence supporting them. As for Director Davenport's perspective on the U.S. government hiding UFO evidence, it is purely speculative and lacks concrete substantiation at this time.